Averett is here. He's getting some water, so he'll be right up. We want to thank everybody for coming to this. It's very important. Mark and I have done this for 12 years now. We do it for us and for our community. We don't do it for any organization. We think that the citizens of Longview and Kelso need to know what the candidates stand for and what they're doing. So therefore, we put on these candidate forums every year so that you can understand and ask questions. If any of you have questions of the port commissioner, there's cards and pens on the back table. Write the question out and give it to me, and I'll make sure that Mark gets them and he can include them in the discussion. If we don't have both candidates here, let's really nail the one that is. He's not over.
I was going to say, you could get away with that by saying it's because he's not in here, but.
So anyhow, is that where you wanted me to talk? Dwight? Did you get it? Oh, okay.
He's got it, so.
And here comes our candidate now, so we just told him more.
You didn't hear the stories Ken was telling about you while you were gone, so that's why the applause, probably.
Can I sit either place?
You can sit either place, either side of the dais is just fine.
I got to move? I got to get up and move and then, okay.
Ken and I were discussing this just before this. We had this one other time last year where we only had one of the two candidates come to the meeting even though they had both confirmed, and we just adjust basically in that case, and we said we'd wait till 5 after, so I think I guess I have 4 after, 3 after, so I'll wait 2 more minutes. But at that point, we'll direct the questions to Mr. Averett and have him a chance to at least answer some of the questions that we have. And if you have additional questions you'd like to ask, let's by all means try and do that so not to waste your time. So with that, pause for about 1 minute and 10 seconds, and then we'll get rolling. Points. We're just talking about basketball.
Yeah.
So typically I'll have 3 minutes for an opening statement, so we'll do that, and then I'll go through the questions that we have. If you have questions that you would like to ask, please give them to Ken Botero in the back. The very back, and he will relay those up along the way, and we can cover through that. And I'm sure Mr. Averett would also be willing to stay after since it's earlier than had planned. But with that, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure.
And 3-minute opening?
Absolutely. Hold it.
First of all, make sure the candidate talks to the audience. Don't talk to Mark, he doesn't hear anything.
Who? I don't even know he's there. Well, listen, I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. My name is Doug Averett. I'm on the Port Commission currently. I was appointed in 2015 to take care of the remaining little over 2 years that Lou Johnson had on his term. And please excuse me, I've got a bad cough, so I'll be drinking the water and coughing quite a bit. So anyway, a little about me. I've lived here all my life. 64 years, 64 wonderful years. And believe me, if you vote for me, we'll get some rain before Election Day. How's that? That's a promise. Anyway, listen, I filled those 2 years, and I worked at the Port of Longview. I should mention that. I worked there for 28 years, started out as an engineering coordinator, and worked my way up to director of operations. And retired in 2015, in April. My retirement lasted 4 months. And I had a lot of people call me when Lou deferred and said, you should do it. And I said, man, I just retired. Give me a break. But I had a lot of people ask me. And so I applied for it. And there were 9 of us. And fortunately, they appointed me. And I got to see the port in a whole new perspective from a commissioner's point of view. And it's totally different. It's very political, which is real hard for me because I'm not a politician, believe me. But I knew the port so well that I had a background that served me well. And it still does, actually, because I can tell what's going on just by looking at the staff sometimes. And The hardest thing for me was to back off from things, though. Because typically, as director of operations, I'm right in the middle of everything and telling people what to do. And as a commissioner, I have one employee. That's the CEO. He takes care of everything else. Well, at first, I found myself bypassing him and going to the individuals that I wanted to talk to. And finally, I realized this isn't going to work. This isn't what a commissioner does. So I backed off. Went through the CEO, and it's working smooth right now. I don't know what I have on time, but I can tell you we've had record revenues. We had record revenue last year. We're on pace for record revenue this year. I can tell you 1 in 10 jobs are related to port activity in Cowlitz County. So I'd like that to climb up a little bit, and I think we can do that. We have nowhere to go but up. Barlow Point is a good example. We have that property out there. They were talking earlier, the two candidates were talking about the Oregon Way Industrial Way interchange improvement. That's directly related to our property out at Barlow Point. We need that improvement to improve train traffic, vehicle traffic, make everything run smoother. We're also upgrading the port itself, berth 4 redevelopment. We're looking at tearing down some silos and making that area more attractive for customers. We're almost done with the Bridgeview Terminal, which is the berth 1 and 2 facility. And so there's lots of exciting things. And one other thing, and I'll shut up for a second here. But once I get talking on the port, it's hard for me to stop. Willow Grove Park, I want to mention that. I was against that. When the county gave it to the port, I wasn't a commissioner at the time, and I thought, why are we doing this? We're going to just start spending money like crazy. Well, I got to tell you, once I became a commissioner and saw the little kids, when we bought the new playground equipment, and saw the little kids out there enjoying the heck out of that, changed my whole focus. It's a way for the port to give back to the community. And I'm all for it. In fact, when we dedicated the playground equipment, the one thing I said was, we're going to have the premier park in the state. Now that's bold. That's a bold statement, and I probably was so excited I shouldn't have said that, but I'd love to see that. And we've got a plan, and we're going to spend money and make that the premier park. So anyway, lots of things happening at the port, and I wish you guys would vote for me because I want to continue what I've already done. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mark,
I don't think our timekeeper, yes.
I didn't catch his name, and would you also tell us the name of the non-attorney person?
Go ahead and you can,
My name is Doug Averett, just like the town of Everett, only with an A.
Okay, thank you.
and his opponent is, for the position of Port of Longview Commissioner, is Kent Preston, who had indicated he would be here, but we don't see him this evening, so that's why we're proceeding. Thank you, Dorothy.
Thank you.
Timekeeper ready? Because we,
There is no time since there's no opponent.
Okay.
oh boy.
Wow.
So I can just cut him off arbitrarily. Thank you, Ken. I'll just take care of that. Thank you.
Keep this to 2 hours.
First question.
Yeah.
Describe your experience in public budgets and your general understanding of financial documents.
Well, I think I almost answered that in my opening remarks. Since I was director of operations, I oversaw a $16 to $17 million budget every year, and that was a public budget. Granted, I was just responsible for my department, but when you work on that, you get involved with the other departments at the port as well. So I've had a long history of public budgets. I'll keep it that one short. Okay.
Question number 2. How should the port go about developing Barlow Point? What strategies can it use to attract a client there willing to invest in the property? And what commodities should locate there?
Well, I'll answer that, the last part of that question first. I am a strong advocate of looking at any commodity. I don't care what it is. whether it be, and again, I'll refer to your last debate, that you were asking them about Anchor Point and whether it should be coal, methanol, can't remember the other one, but I think we should look at every commodity and try as hard as we can to accommodate that commodity. If the customer has the wherewithal to fund this thing, then we need to look at every possibility to make it environmentally sound and also economically sound for the community, because we do need jobs. There's no question. And if we keep saying we can do better, we're going to be saying that forever. And I don't mean to badmouth anybody. Everybody's got their opinions. I understand that. But what I'm trying to do as commissioner is open things up to the point where what I see too often, and not just with the locals, with the state as well, I hear the word no so often with no regard for how that's affecting the communities. I want to hear maybe, at least maybe, let's take a look and see if we can make this work and be environmentally sound. There might be a way to do it. So I don't want to say no. So as far as commodities, I'm open to anything. The intersection that I talked about in the beginning, that has to happen for Barlow Point to succeed. There is no way you're going to have, it's going to be train traffic, whatever it is, typically. You have to have that intersection upgraded to allow traffic to go either over the train tracks or under them, and it's more than likely going to go over, to have unit trains going back and forth out there. So, plus we need to invest in the infrastructure at Barlow Point to make sure we have the sewer, the water, the electricity, and everything ready to go out there, so a customer doesn't have to worry about that. Expensive, it's going to be very expensive, but there's ways to do it. There's grants, there's public-private partnerships, and I'm just hoping that we're able to do that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Next question. I'll try and make one a little bit more difficult for you. The Port of Kalama, without using additional taxpayer money, developed a riverfront park and a large sports complex. The McMenamins restaurant is currently under construction and an amphitheater is being considered. What should be the Port of Longview's role in providing public amenities?
Well, again, I did mention that about Willow Grove Park. We're not the Port of Kalama yet. Let's put it that way. Port of Kalama is traditionally a landlord port. And what I mean by that, they don't operate any of their docks. They lease them out and let the terminal operator operate it. They hire the labor, they do all the things. And then Kalama basically sits back and collects the revenue from the leases. We're an operating port. We're slowly transitioning a little bit towards kind of a hybrid port, a combination between an operating and non-operating port. Kalama has no, I shouldn't say no overhead, they have a minimal overhead, where the Port of Longview, I think last year it was 38 million roughly, we made gross operating revenues, but our expenses were like 32 million, 31 million, something like that. So that's because we have an agreement with the local labor, and we hire labor for the dock. We have steady labor. We basically provide the equipment, we maintain the equipment. Our expenses are astronomical. So I always hear this, why can't you eliminate the taxes? Well, the commission tried that about, God, what was it, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that. They cut it in half. 2 years later, they reinstated the whole tax thing. Community did not like that, and it was not a prudent move to do. I'm for eliminating those taxes, but you need to do it in smaller steps. And so this year, my colleagues and I lowered the taxes by 20%. We're probably going to do it this budget cycle. We'll do it again. We'll take a hard look at what we can do versus what we need. And honestly, we need a lot of money to improve Barlow Point, to upgrade our current facilities, attract customers, do whatever we need to do. But we are reaching out to the community with the Willow Grove Park, and also we contribute to the Southwest Washington Regional Airport as well. So, I'm
Thank
done.
you. Next question, I'll let you get a drink of water.
Thank you.
Because I have the sore throat too with all the smoky air and particulates that we have going.
Yeah, we need rain. I can't believe I'm saying that, but
The
we
forecast
do.
I saw this afternoon for the lightning without rain is not an
That's not good.
encouraging
No,
thing.
that's not.
What have you learned in your time so far as commissioner?
Well, I think I answered that as well, because commissioners, basically, their job is to set policy at the Port of Longview and to hire and oversee the CEO. When I first became a commissioner, I was too much involved. I felt like I was a semi-director of operations again, and so I would get too involved. And so I've backed off from that and basically go through my CEO, who I knew for many years. I've known for many years as a colleague when I was in administration, Norm Crable. And I've learned that you can change things through policy as well, Jay, which is slow for me. I like to be able to just say, come on, don't do that. Let's change. Let's try the ship's gear instead of our crane or whatever, But policy is the way to go, and that's the vision for the future. And I've learned how to adjust, and that's what I'm trying to do. So,
Thank you.
yep.
Next question, how should the Port of Longview interface with other public agencies and organizations? How would you bring that about?
Well, we do currently interface with other government organizations. As I mentioned, I'm actually the board representative for the Southwest Washington Regional Airport. And they're doing a great job now. A few years back, I attended a meeting at the airport, and it was not fun. They had an interim manager. It was, I'd describe it as chaos. I walked out of that meeting going, how do they get anything done? Well, they've since hired a new airport manager, Chris Polini, and this guy is amazing. He's made changes already. And so we support that. We have a representative. We have a representative on the board that goes to the CEDC, Cowlitz Economic Development Council. We also, when necessary, will attend Longview City Council meetings, Kelso City Council meetings. So we're already doing pretty much, meeting with the different government entities. So.
Okay.
Okay.
A couple here I'm going to hybrid together.
Okay.
What are the greatest opportunities and biggest challenges that you see facing the Port of Longview?
Well, I hate to keep repeating myself, but Barlow Point, I think, is the biggest opportunity if you're looking at attracting a big company to locate somewhere. I mean, we've got riverfront property. It's a greenfield. Hopefully it's going to have good rail access and highway access. And there's an opportunity there where I think we could attract a huge company to import or export, who knows, cars, methanol, I don't know, anything. We'll take a hard look at anything. I will anyway. I don't want to speak for my colleagues. Challenges, the interchange. My biggest challenge, I think, is how long everything takes. I mean, goodness sakes, our neighbors down the way, Millennium, it doesn't matter whether you like coal or not. They've been there over 5 years trying to get their permits. That's too long. This interchange that they're proposing, that's going to take forever. And that's what frustrates me more than anything, because I'm used to getting things done quicker. But it's the wheels of government. That's what happens. But I think that's our biggest challenge is of course, money will be a big challenge for us, and time to get things done. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
You've actually answered a lot of my extra spare
Sorry.
questions, but that's okay. That's a good thing. I do have another one.
Okay.
What do you see as the major infrastructure needs at the Port of Longview?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. We just recently approved a consultant to take a look at some silos that we have from our old Berth 4 grain facility, to look at tearing those down. What we're trying to do is repair existing facilities that have been neglected for a long time, because we didn't have any money. And now we're starting to see a little bit more money with the addition of EGT. Our grain facility is starting to pump some money into our coffers. And so we're looking at trying to upgrade docks. We're looking to expand our rail corridor, demolishing the silos at Berth 4 to make that more attractive. We're involved in the interchange. So, yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Yep.
What is the port's role with the regional airport development?
As far as development, not a lot. We do contribute to their operating fund, their budget. And like I said, I'm involved, I'm on the board as well as City of Longview, Chet McKinster, David Fucher, who was here earlier from Kelso, and Arn Mortensen from the county. And so the four of us, the four entities, contribute financially to keep the airport operating. But as far as development, the airport itself is involved in it.
Okay. Describe your vision of the Port of Longview in 10 years. What areas should be the primary focus?
Well, I hope in 10 years, I hope that Barlow Point is either already functioning or as a facility, or it's very close. And hopefully we have a shot clock with some teeth so we can get the permits quickly and get that thing built and ready to go. Plus, I hope in 10 years that we have a big customer at Berth 4. We've upgraded everything else, modernized it to the point where we are shipping like crazy, import, export. And I got to tell you this too before I forget. We have been the third largest port volume-wise, revenue-wise, in the state of Washington behind Seattle and Tacoma for the last 3 years, I believe. Don't quote me, but I believe it is 3 years. Out of 75 ports in the state of Washington. So that's pretty good. Yeah, there's lots of ports in the state of Washington. Out of 158 national, we have 75. So we must be doing something right. And in 10 years, I hope we continue to build and that we have provided jobs so that nobody in the community is saying, where am I going to get a job? You know, what are we going to do? Well, go down to the such and such at Barlow Point, they're hiring. So I hope that happens. I just really do.
Thank you.
Yep.
I've pretty much exhausted the spare questions as well as the questions from the audience, or you already covered the questions before I even
Here
asked
comes
them.
one. Here comes
Oh,
one.
one more coming in here quickly. Hopefully I won't embarrass her and go, I can't ask that one, but. Oh, where is Barlow Point in the airport? I guess some people,
Well,
it's
I
one of those
don't-
things we assume when we're,
I don't blame you for asking where the airport is. I really don't. Because I got to tell you, I grew up in Kelso and I didn't even know we had an airport until I was probably in high school. The airport is off of Tally Way in Kelso. Do you know where that is? Okay, yeah, it's down there. It's big. It's between the freeway or Tennant Way and Tally Way, essentially. And yeah, and Barlow Point is actually out by before Willow Grove. It's right past Millennium Bulk Terminals. Okay, there was an old landfill. It's right behind our property. We have 282 acres, I believe it is. So, yeah.
if you'd like to drive out there, you go out Willow Grove Road.
Yep.
Before it goes out to the waterfront, take the hard left. That's
Yep.
Barlow Point, and you go to the end of that road, and your property, the Port of Longview's property is between there.
The old Reynolds
and
Metals
the
plant,
old
which is
Reynolds
Millennium, you
Metals.
go right past that and you'll see the property to the left, right on the river.
But thank you for that. Sometimes those of us involved in the community just assume everybody knows like acronyms and locations, and that isn't always the case. But I don't know if you haven't covered everything, Mr.
feel like
Averett,
I have.
but for closing statement, you do have opportunity, and I'll go through my thank yous.
Well,
Another question,
sure,
where is Willow Grove Park?
Oh,
good question. Willow Grove Park is another one that's kind of off the beaten path. You go way out, Industrial Way, all the way around Mount Solo. You know where Mount Solo is? God, now I'm in trouble. Cold Creek, yeah. You make that turn like you're going to go back to Ocean Beach, and then you take a left on Willow Grove Road, I believe it is, and you go quite a ways out there, and it's on the left-hand side. So it's a great park. Unfortunately, the county did not have money to spend to improve it, so that's why we took it over.
there you go. You have a road trip opportunity ahead of you, apparently, so.
Yeah.
Anything else you haven't covered that you'd like to use for your closing statement?
I think I've covered everything pretty much. I just appreciate everybody coming out to listen to me ramble. And I hope you will vote for me. The port is like, I mentioned this to somebody the other day. Port is like my home away from home. It's just one of those things where I spent my whole career. Being a commissioner is my way of, if I'm in it for the money, I picked the wrong category, trust me. It's my way of giving back and to the port. And every decision I make truly is for the betterment of the port. And in turn, I feel like that's better for the communities. We do give back, both financially and with things like Willow Grove Park. So please vote for me. Thank you very much. Yes?
Are there any other environmentally friendly products like, besides the windmill things, solar cells or anything that can go through the port?
They certainly could. It's just a matter of if they're economically viable to do so. I can tell you this, that we've actually had people come to the port and want to export wood pellets for heating, for power to Asia. The problem was there wasn't enough money in it. And so by the time you spent the freight to get it to the port, the cost to load it and store it and load it to the ship, they couldn't make enough money to do that. But there's always things that come up, like wind energy, like you're talking about. And, I could go on and on. I'll tell you that question. Let me just say this real quick. It won't be real quick, but back in 2003, when I took over as Director of Operations, the port was at its lowest financial point in probably its history. We had very little money in the bank. In fact, as soon as I took over, the CEO at the time told me, if you're going to spend over $200, you have to talk to me first. Yeah. And I was like, really? And he said, yeah, you got it. We just don't have any money. So what happened is Weyerhaeuser bought Willamette Industries, which was our biggest export customer. They supplied logs through the port. That's what they did. And Weyerhaeuser bought them, so guess where those logs went? So we're sitting there with no logs, hardly anything going at berth 2. Berth 5 was steady. And suddenly we start hearing about wind energy. And we fortunately hired someone who had been in the wind energy business, and suddenly we're in the wind energy business. And I got to hand it to the port. The port was very creative in how they handled that business. We used existing infrastructure to handle those towers and blades and everything else, and we became one of the biggest handlers of that cargo for the next 5-6 years. But again, things don't always sustain themselves like that. And if you recall, there was a tax credit that Congress had passed for that, so people were starting projects everywhere. Well, That tax credit is gone, and so you don't see it very often. We've had a few ships this year. But to answer your question, I hope so. I really do. Because everybody loves wind energy. Everybody loves those cargoes that don't have any controversy surrounding them. They're great. But I don't know what that next big thing will be, but we need to be ready. And I must say, the port has always been very flexible. So hopefully we'll get something.
Thank you.
Yep.
First, I'd like to thank Ken Botero for organizing
We had
these.
one more question.
Dorothy?
Oh, I was going to wonder, would it be fair for you to tell us anything about the background of Kent Preston? I don't know who he is.
I couldn't, I shouldn't, and I won't, because,
Well, you can't, but.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it would be inappropriate for you to do that,
Yeah.
and I don't know enough about his background to discuss his candidacy and his views. I'm really not
There
familiar.
is an online voter's guide that
Oh, yeah, there is always the online
Yeah.
voters guide and such, and
In the two Barlow Point and Willow Road you referred to, are there any developments out there of people and homes that is, what would anyone have to be taken out?
no.
There are not literal.
There's people living around that area.
But in the areas you're.
No, that property, there's no structures, no houses or anything.
Strictly commercial property.
Industrial, yes, commercial. Yep.
we're going to wrap this up.
Okay.
Thank you to Ken Botero for organizing these. He's always very gracious in saying that it's the Botero-Kelch ones. If there's any problems with them, you can blame me. If there's something good, you can give Ken credit. But I also want a special recognition. His daughter Cassie just completed her final chemotherapy today. So that is, having had a daughter-in-law that has battled cancer, I can sympathize. That's a difficult thing to go through. Appreciate everybody in attendance for coming. Dwayne filming this for KLTV. Marissa Luck is here from the Daily News. Appreciate their coverage as well. Special thanks to candidates, both Kent, who isn't here, and certainly for Doug Averett, who was here and gracious enough to go through all of our questions and answer all those. And I see
pleasure.
Ken's hand up before I...
Next Tuesday.
That was my next thing on the list, Ken. Upcoming debates. Next Tuesday, 7 o'clock, September 12th at Canterbury Park, right here. Kelso City Council position number 2, Lisa Alexander and Mike Karnowski. The following week, 7 p.m., Monday, September 18th, right here. Kelso City Council position number 3, Gary Archer and Kim Lefebvre. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that
Lefebvre?
correctly. I'll have to work on that one. We have a series of debates. I think there's 12 total that we're covering this fall. So hope to see you all back here for other debates. I appreciate you coming, and we look forward to seeing you in the future ones.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. Yep.